Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into Tier 2 of the Christianity Iceberg. If you missed our previous video where we covered Tier 1, I highly recommend checking that out first. It provides a great foundation for what we'll be discussing today, although it's not required to follow along with this video. So, whether you're continuing the journey or jumping in for the first time, get ready for some fascinating insights and deeper understanding of Christianity. Let's get started. Number 1. Descent into Hades. An in-depth exploration. The descent into Hades, also known as the harrowing of hell, is a profound and mysterious aspect of Christian theology. This event is traditionally celebrated in the liturgy of Holy Saturday and is considered a crucial part of the narrative of Christ's death and resurrection. This exploration will delve into the biblical basis, theological implications, historical interpretations, and cultural representations of this fascinating doctrine. The concept of Christ descending into Hades is primarily derived from a few key biblical passages. One of the most explicit references is found in 1 Peter chapter 3 verses 18 through 20. For Christ also suffered once for sins, the righteous for the unrighteous, to bring you to God. He was put to death in the body but made alive in the spirit. After being made alive, he went and made proclamation to the imprisoned spirits, to those who were disobedient long ago when God waited patiently in the days of Noah while the ark was being built. Another important passage is Ephesians chapter 4 verses 8 through 10. Therefore it says, "When he ascended on high, he led a host of captives, and he gave gifts to men." In saying, "he ascended," what does it mean but that he had also descended into the lower regions, the earth? He who descended is the one who also ascended far above all the heavens, that he might fill all things. Peter's sermon in Acts chapter 2 also touches on this theme, quoting Psalm chapter 16 verse 10. "Because you will not abandon me to the realm of the dead, you will not let your Holy One see decay." Peter interprets this as a prophecy of Christ's resurrection and his descent to Hades. The descent into Hades holds significant theological implications for the doctrines of salvation, atonement, and eschatology. One of the primary theological interpretations is that Christ descended into Hades to proclaim victory over death and to liberate the righteous souls who had died before his crucifixion. This is often referred to as the harrowing of hell. According to this view, Christ's descent bridged the gap between the Old and New Covenants, offering salvation to those who had awaited the Messiah. The descent is also seen as a demonstration of Christ's victory over death and the powers of evil. By descending into Hades, Christ confronts the ultimate enemy, death itself, and emerges victorious, thus ensuring that death no longer has dominion over humanity. The event is considered a fulfillment of Old Testament prophecies and a crucial part of the Paschal mystery. It underscores the completeness of Christ's redemptive work, showing that his salvation extends to all people across all times and places. Throughout Christian history, the descent into Hades has been interpreted in various ways by different theological traditions. The early church fathers, such as Irenaeus, Tertullian, and Augustine, emphasized the harrowing of hell as a significant aspect of Christ's salvific work. They believed that Christ's descent was a literal event where he freed the souls of the righteous from the bondage of death. In Eastern Orthodox theology, the descent into Hades is celebrated with great reverence, especially during the liturgy of Holy Saturday. The Orthodox Church views it as a triumphant victory over death and corruption, often depicted in icons showing Christ breaking the gates of Hades and leading Adam, Eve, and other righteous figures to paradise. In Western Christianity, particularly within Catholicism, the harrowing of hell is also acknowledged, though often with a different emphasis. The Catechism of the Catholic Church states that Christ descended there as Savior, proclaiming the good news to the spirits imprisoned there. CCC 632 through 633. Reformation theologians like John Calvin interpreted the descent in a more metaphorical sense, viewing it as Christ's experience of the full weight of human sin and separation from God. Modern theological perspectives vary, with some seeing it as a mythological element while others maintain its doctrinal importance. The descent into Hades has also been a rich source of inspiration in art, literature, and liturgy. In Christian iconography, the descent into Hades is often depicted with Christ standing triumphantly over the broken gates of Hades, pulling Adam and Eve from their graves. This imagery powerfully symbolizes the defeat of death and the hope of resurrection. In literature, the theme has been explored in works such as Dante's Divine Comedy, where the poet descends into hell and witnesses the torments of the damned. This reflects a broader medieval fascination with the afterlife and the fate of souls. Liturgically, The event is commemorated in the hymns and readings of Holy Saturday. Hymns like The Day of Resurrection celebrate Christ's victory over death, and the Orthodox Paschal greeting, Christ is risen from the dead, trampling down death by death, encapsulates the joy of the resurrection. The descent into Hades is a profound and multifaceted doctrine within Christian theology. It underscores the completeness of Christ's redemptive work, his victory over death, and the hope of eternal life for all believers. Whether interpreted literally or metaphorically, the event remains a powerful testament to the transformative power of Christ's death and resurrection. Through its rich biblical foundations, theological significance, historical interpretations, and cultural representations, the descent into Hades continues to inspire and deepen the faith of Christians around the world. Number 2. The Horns of Moses. Origins, interpretations, and cultural impact. The depiction of Moses with horns is one of the more enigmatic and fascinating aspects of Western art and theology. This imagery has sparked numerous interpretations and discussions over the centuries, particularly due to its unusual nature and its significant impact on both religious and artistic representations. This exploration will delve into the origins, biblical basis, theological interpretations, historical developments, and cultural impact of the horns of Moses. The depiction of Moses with horns originates from a particular translation of the Hebrew Bible into Latin. The key passage is found in Exodus chapter 34 verses 29 through 35, which describes Moses' descent from Mount Sinai after receiving the 10 Commandments. When Moses came down from Mount Sinai, with the 2 tablets of the covenant law in his hands, he was not aware that his face was radiant because he had spoken with the Lord. In the original Hebrew text, the word used is keren, which can mean to shine or to emit rays. However, when Jerome translated the Bible into Latin in the 4th century, known as the Vulgate, he rendered the Hebrew word keren as cornuta, which means horned. This translation reads, Iti ignorabat quod cornuta esset facies sua ex consortio sermonis domini, or in English, and he did not know that his face was horned because he had spoken with the Lord. Scholars debate whether Jerome's translation was a misunderstanding or a deliberate choice. Some suggest that Jerome may have interpreted the rays of light as physical horns due to the linguistic and cultural context of his time. Others believe it could have been a metaphorical representation of power and divine favor. Early Christian writers and theologians were aware of the potential dual meaning of the word keren. Some, like Origen and Augustine, recognized the metaphorical nature of the rays of light and emphasized the spiritual enlightenment and glory bestowed upon Moses by God. During the medieval period, the horned depiction of Moses became more prevalent. The horns were often interpreted symbolically, representing the strength, authority, and divine inspiration of Moses. Theologians of this era, including Thomas Aquinas, discussed the luminous nature of Moses' face as a sign of his unique relationship with God and his role as a lawgiver. In some theological interpretations, the horns are seen as a symbol of enlightenment and divine wisdom. They signify the transformation of Moses after encountering God, indicating that he had been in the presence of the divine and was now marked by it in a visible, albeit misunderstood, manner. One of the most famous artistic representations of Moses with horns is Michelangelo's sculpture created in the early 16th century for the tomb of Pope Julius II. The statue, located in San Pietro in Vincoli, Rome, depicts Moses with prominent horns on his head. This portrayal has had a lasting impact on the perception of Moses in Western art and culture. During the Renaissance and Baroque periods, the horned depiction of Moses was relatively common. Artists like Michelangelo, Donatello, and various painters included the horned Moses in their works, often using the imagery to convey the divine authority and prophetic power of Moses. By the 18th and 19th centuries, the horned depiction of Moses began to wane as scholars and theologians revisited the original Hebrew texts and recognized the potential translation error. Modern biblical scholarship tends to emphasize the rays of light interpretation, viewing the horns as a mistranslation. The horned depiction of Moses has influenced both Jewish and Christian iconography and theology. In Jewish tradition, the luminous face of Moses is celebrated during Simchat Torah, reflecting the joy and reverence for the Torah and its divine origin. In Christianity, the image of the horned Moses, despite its controversial nature, has been a powerful symbol of the law, authority, and the mysterious ways of divine revelation. The horns of Moses have also appeared in literature and popular culture. Writers and artists have used the imagery to explore themes of misinterpretation, divine encounter, and the transformation of individuals through their experiences with the divine. The horns have become a symbol of the complexities and depths of biblical interpretation and the ways in which translation and cultural context shape our understanding of sacred texts. In contemporary times, there is a renewed interest in the horns of Moses, both as a subject of academic study and as a cultural symbol. Scholars examine the historical, linguistic, and theological factors that led to this unique depiction, while artists and writers continue to find inspiration in the enigmatic and powerful image of the horned Moses. The horns of Moses remain one of the most intriguing and debated aspects of biblical interpretation and artistic representation. Originating from a translation nuance in the Vulgate, this imagery has journeyed through centuries of theological reflection, artistic expression, and cultural impact. Whether seen as a symbol of divine power, a metaphor for enlightenment, or a product of translation, the horns of Moses continue to captivate and inspire, reminding us of the rich and complex tapestry of religious tradition and interpretation. Through understanding its origins, theological significance, and cultural legacy, we gain a deeper appreciation for the ways in which sacred texts and their interpretations shape our understanding of faith, art, and history. Number 3. The throne of God is sentient. Exploring the mystical and theological dimensions. The concept of the throne of God being sentient is a fascinating and complex idea that has roots in various religious traditions, mystical writings, and theological reflections. This notion suggests that the throne of God is not merely a symbolic or static object but possesses consciousness and awareness, contributing to the divine presence and authority. This exploration will delve into the origins, scriptural foundations, theological interpretations, mystical perspectives, and cultural representations of the idea that the throne of God is sentient. The Bible contains numerous references to the throne of God, often depicted as a majestic and awe-inspiring seat of divine authority. Key passages include Isaiah chapter 6 verses 1 through 4. In the year that King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord, high and exalted, seated on a throne, and the train of his robe filled the temple. Above him were seraphim, each with 6 wings. With 2 wings they covered their faces, with 2 they covered their feet, and with 2 they were flying. And they were calling to one another, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord Almighty, the whole earth is full of his glory. Ezekiel chapter 1 verses 26 through 28. Above the vault over their heads was what looked like a throne of lapis lazuli, and high above on the throne was a figure like that of a man. I saw that from what appeared to be his waist up, he looked like glowing metal, as if full of fire, and that from there down he looked like fire, and brilliant light surrounded him. Like the appearance of a rainbow in the clouds on a rainy day, so was the radiance around him. Revelation chapter 4 verses 2 through 6. At once I was in the Spirit, and there before me was a throne in heaven with someone sitting on it. And the one who sat there had the appearance of jasper and ruby. A rainbow that shone like an emerald encircled the throne. Surrounding the throne were 24 other thrones, and seated on them were 24 elders. They were dressed in white and had crowns of gold on their heads. From the throne came flashes of lightning, rumblings, and peals of thunder. In front of the throne, 7 lamps were blazing. These are the 7 spirits of God. Also in front of the throne there was what looked like a sea of glass, clear as crystal. Jewish mystical traditions, particularly those found in Kabbalah, often explore the idea of divine attributes and objects possessing consciousness. The concept of the Merkava, or the chariot, in Jewish mysticism, particularly in the texts of the Hekhalot literature, presents a throne that is deeply connected with the divine presence and the heavenly realms. The throne of God is often seen as a symbol of his ultimate authority and presence. In many theological interpretations, this throne is not a passive object but a dynamic representation of God's power and glory. The sentience of the throne suggests that it actively participates in the divine will, reflecting God's omnipotence and omniscience. In Christian theology, particularly in the writings of the early church fathers, Christ is sometimes described as the embodiment of God's throne. This idea links the sentience of the throne with the person of Christ, who is both fully divine and fully human. The throne, in this context, becomes a living and active participant in the divine economy, embodying the presence and authority of Christ. The book of Revelation provides vivid descriptions of the throne of God, surrounded by living creatures and elders. These creatures, often interpreted as symbols of divine attributes, suggest that the throne is part of a living, dynamic heavenly reality. The throne's sentience can be seen as part of this larger vision of a living, active divine realm. In Jewish mysticism, particularly within the Kabbalistic tradition, the throne of God is often seen as an integral part of the divine presence. The Zohar, a foundational Kabbalistic text, describes the throne as part of the Sphirot, the 10 emanations through which God interacts with the world. The throne's sentience is linked to its role in manifesting God's will and interacting with the created world. Christian mystics, such as Hildegard of Bingen and Julian of Norwich, have written about their visions of the divine throne. These visions often depict the throne as a living, dynamic reality, filled with light and surrounded by angels. The sentience of the throne in these mystical experiences underscores the intimate connection between God and His creation, as well as the active participation of divine objects in the heavenly realm. In Islamic mysticism, the concept of the Arsh, or the throne, also plays a significant role. Sufi mystics often describe the throne as a living entity, filled with the light and presence of Allah. The sentience of the throne in Sufi thought reflects the idea that all aspects of the divine realm are interconnected and alive, participating in the continuous creation and sustenance of the universe. The sentient throne of God has been a popular subject in religious art and iconography. Medieval and Renaissance artists often depicted the throne surrounded by angels, saints, and other divine beings, suggesting its active role in the heavenly court. These artistic representations highlight the throne's sentience and its central place in the divine hierarchy. The idea of a sentient throne has also found its way into literature and popular culture. Fantasy novels and films often feature thrones with magical properties or consciousness, reflecting the deep cultural resonance of this concept. These representations draw on religious and mystical traditions, reimagining the throne's sentience in new and imaginative ways. In contemporary theology and spirituality, the sentience of the throne of God continues to inspire reflection and exploration. Modern theologians and spiritual writers often emphasize the dynamic and living nature of the divine realm, seeing the throne's sentience as a symbol of God's active presence and involvement in the world. The concept of the throne of God being sentient is a rich and multifaceted idea with deep roots in religious tradition, theology, and mysticism. From its biblical foundations to its mystical interpretations and cultural representations, the sentient throne of God reflects the dynamic and living nature of the divine realm. It underscores the intimate connection between God and His creation, highlighting the active participation of divine objects in the manifestation of God's will and presence. As a symbol of divine authority and glory, the sentient throne continues to captivate and inspire, inviting believers to contemplate the mysteries of the heavenly realm and the nature of God's interaction with the world. Through understanding its origins, theological significance, and cultural impact, we gain a deeper appreciation for the ways in which this profound concept shapes our understanding of faith, art, and the divine. Number 4. The Mark of Cain. An in-depth exploration. The story of Cain and Abel is one of the most well-known narratives in the Bible, found in the book of Genesis. Central to this story is the Mark of Cain, a mysterious sign given to Cain by God after he murders his brother Abel. This mark has been the subject of much theological debate, artistic representation, and cultural interpretation. This exploration will delve into the biblical origins, theological implications, historical interpretations, and cultural representations of the Mark of Cain, providing a comprehensive understanding of this enigmatic symbol. The story of Cain and Abel is recounted in Genesis chapter 4 verses 1 through 16. Cain, the firstborn son of Adam and Eve, becomes a farmer, while his younger brother Abel becomes a shepherd. Both brothers bring offerings to God, but God favors Abel's sacrifice over Cain's. In a fit of jealousy and anger, Cain kills Abel. When God confronts Cain about Abel's whereabouts, Cain responds with the infamous line, "Am I my brother's keeper?" God then punishes Cain by condemning him to be a restless wanderer. However, to protect Cain from being killed by others, God places a mark on him. Then the Lord said to him, "Not so, anyone who kills Cain will suffer vengeance 7 times over." Then the Lord put a mark on Cain so that no one who found him would kill him. Genesis chapter 4 verse 15. The exact nature of the mark is not specified in the biblical text, leading to various interpretations. The Hebrew word used is ot, which generally means sign or omen. This ambiguity has fueled numerous theological and speculative discussions about what the Mark of Cain actually was. One of the primary theological interpretations of the Mark of Cain is that it signifies God's mercy and protection, even in the face of sin. Despite Cain's grievous sin of murder, God provides a means to protect him from retribution. This highlights the complexity of divine justice and mercy, showing that even those who commit serious sins are not beyond God's care. Conversely, the mark also serves as a sign of Cain's punishment and exile. It is a constant reminder of his crime and the consequences of his actions. This dual aspect of the mark, as both protection and punishment, reflects the multifaceted nature of God's interaction with humanity, combining justice with compassion. The mark of Cain is often seen as a symbol of sin and human fallibility. Cain's actions stem from jealousy and anger, emotions that are all too common in human experience. The mark thus serves as a reminder of the consequences of letting such emotions go unchecked and the importance of repentance and seeking forgiveness. Early Jewish and Christian interpretations of the mark of Cain vary widely. Some early Jewish commentators suggested that the mark was a physical sign, such as a horn or a leprous spot, while others believed it was a protective inscription. In Christian tradition, some church fathers, like Augustine, viewed the mark symbolically, representing Cain's separation from God and his fellow humans. During the medieval and Renaissance periods, interpretations of the mark of Cain continued to evolve. The mark was often seen as a sign of divine retribution and a warning against sin. Artistic representations from this period frequently depicted Cain with a physical mark, emphasizing the visible consequences of his actions. In modern times, the mark of Cain has been interpreted in various ways, reflecting contemporary concerns and understandings. Some scholars see it as a metaphor for social alienation and marginalization, while others view it through the lens of psychological and emotional trauma. The mark of Cain has appeared in numerous literary works, often symbolizing guilt, sin, and the human condition. In Nathaniel Hawthorne's The Scarlet Letter, for example, the protagonist Hester Prynne bears a mark of sin, the scarlet letter A, which echoes the biblical story of Cain. Similarly, in John Steinbeck's East of Eden, the mark of Cain serves as a central motif exploring themes of inherited sin and redemption. Artists throughout history have been captivated by the story of Cain and Abel, and the mark of Cain has been depicted in various ways. In many Renaissance paintings, Cain is shown with a physical mark on his forehead, highlighting the visible nature of his punishment. Modern artists often explore the psychological and emotional dimensions of the mark, using abstract and symbolic imagery to convey its meaning. The mark of Cain has also found its way into film and media. In popular culture, it is often used as a metaphor for a character's guilt or inner turmoil. Movies and television shows may reference the mark to highlight themes of sin, punishment, and redemption. Musicians have drawn inspiration from the story of Cain and Abel, with the mark of Cain symbolizing various themes. Songs across genres explore the idea of bearing a mark of guilt or the struggle for forgiveness and redemption. The mark serves as a powerful image in lyrics, resonating with listeners' experiences of guilt, justice, and mercy. One of the more controversial aspects of the mark of Cain is its historical misinterpretation concerning race. In the 19th and early 20th centuries, some proponents of slavery and segregation in the United States used the story of Cain to justify their beliefs, falsely claiming that the mark of Cain was a dark skin color. This racist interpretation has been thoroughly debunked by modern biblical scholarship, which emphasizes the symbolic and protective nature of the mark rather than any racial connotation. From a psychological perspective, the mark of Cain can be seen as a symbol of internalized guilt and shame. It represents the lasting impact of wrongdoing on an individual's psyche and the struggle for reconciliation and healing. Sociologically, the mark can be viewed as a metaphor for social stigma and the challenges faced by those who are ostracized or marginalized due to their past actions. Despite its association with sin and punishment, the mark of Cain also offers a message of redemption and forgiveness. God's protection of Cain suggests that even those who commit serious sins are not beyond the possibility of redemption. This aspect of the story resonates with contemporary themes of restorative justice and the potential for personal transformation and growth. The mark of Cain is a rich and multifaceted symbol that has captured the imagination of theologians, artists, writers, and thinkers for centuries. Its origins in the biblical narrative, combined with its theological, historical, and cultural interpretations, make it a powerful symbol of sin, punishment, protection, and redemption. Whether viewed through the lens of ancient scripture, medieval art, modern literature, or contemporary psychology, the mark of Cain continues to offer profound insights into the human condition and the complexities of divine justice and mercy. Through understanding its many dimensions, we gain a deeper appreciation for the enduring relevance and significance of this enigmatic mark in our cultural and spiritual heritage. Number 5. The 120-year life limit. An in-depth exploration. The concept of a 120-year life limit is derived from a passage in the Bible and has fascinated theologians, scientists, and laypeople for centuries. This notion suggests that human lifespan has a divinely imposed maximum limit of 120 years. This exploration delves into the biblical origins, scientific perspectives, historical interpretations, and cultural implications of the 120-year life limit, offering a comprehensive understanding of this intriguing concept. The primary biblical source for the idea of a 120-year life limit is found in Genesis chapter 6 verse 3. This passage occurs in the context of the prelude to the flood narrative. Then the Lord said, "My spirit will not contend with humans forever, for they are mortal, their days will be 120 years." The context of this verse is crucial for understanding its meaning. Genesis chapter 6 verses 1 through 4 describe the increasing wickedness of humanity, particularly the interactions between the sons of God and the daughters of humans, resulting in the birth of the Nephilim. In this setting, God's declaration of a 120-year limit can be seen as a response to the corruption and moral decline of humanity, signifying a period of grace before the impending judgment of the flood. The interpretation of Genesis chapter 6 verse 3 has varied widely. Some scholars believe it refers to the shortening of individual human lifespans, while others see it as a countdown to the flood, indicating the time remaining before God's judgment would be executed. From a theological standpoint, the 120-year life limit reflects both divine judgment and mercy. God's decision to limit human lifespan can be viewed as a response to human sinfulness, curbing the potential for extended wickedness. At the same time, it represents an act of mercy, providing a finite period for repentance and transformation before divine intervention. The 120-year limit underscores the themes of human mortality and divine sovereignty. It serves as a reminder that human life is finite and subject to God's authority. This perspective emphasizes the importance of living a righteous life within the confines of human limitations. Some theologians interpret the 120-year limit symbolically, suggesting it represents completeness or a significant period in biblical numerology. In this view, the number 120 may not be intended as a literal lifespan, but rather as a symbolic marker of human frailty and the need for divine dependence. Scientific research into human lifespan has explored the biological, genetic, and environmental factors that influence longevity. While the average human lifespan has increased significantly due to advances in medicine, nutrition, and living conditions, the notion of an upper limit to human life remains a topic of ongoing investigation. Observations of the maximum human lifespan support the idea that there may be a natural limit to how long humans can live. The oldest verified human, Jean Calment, lived to be 122 years old. Such cases are rare, and the vast majority of people do not approach this age. This has led some scientists to propose that there is a biological ceiling to human longevity. Research into the genetic and cellular mechanisms of aging has identified several key factors that influence lifespan. These include telomere shortening, oxidative stress, and cellular senescence. While some scientists believe that these factors could be manipulated to extend human life, others argue that there are intrinsic biological limits that cannot be overcome. Several theories of aging, such as the programmed aging theory and the damage accumulation theory, offer insights into why humans age and why there might be a natural limit to lifespan. The programmed aging theory suggests that aging is genetically programmed and regulated, while the damage accumulation theory posits that aging results from the gradual accumulation of cellular and molecular damage. In ancient and medieval times, the 120-year limit was often taken literally, though few people actually reached this age. Lifespans were generally shorter due to disease, malnutrition, and lack of medical knowledge. Nevertheless, the biblical assertion of a 120-year limit was seen as a divine decree, influencing theological and philosophical discussions about the nature of life and death. During the Enlightenment, advancements in science and medicine began to challenge traditional interpretations of human lifespan. Researchers and philosophers started to explore natural explanations for aging and longevity, moving away from strictly theological perspectives. The idea of extending human life through scientific means became a subject of serious inquiry. In contemporary times, the intersection of theology, science, and ethics has shaped discussions about the 120-year life limit. Debates about the feasibility and desirability of significantly extending human lifespan continue, with considerations of quality of life, societal implications, and ethical concerns playing central roles. The concept of a finite human lifespan has been a recurring theme in literature and art. Works exploring the inevitability of aging, the quest for immortality, and the human condition often draw on the idea of a natural limit to life. From ancient myths to modern science fiction, The tension between finite life and the desire for immortality is a powerful narrative force. The 120-year life limit prompts moral and ethical reflections on how humans should live their lives. It raises questions about the value of life, the ethics of life extension technologies, and the societal impacts of significantly longer lifespans. These reflections are crucial in guiding policies and personal choices related to health, aging, and longevity. The idea of extending human lifespan has significant societal implications. Increased longevity could affect population dynamics, economic systems, healthcare, and social structures. Planning for an aging population and addressing the challenges and opportunities of longer lives are important considerations for policymakers and communities. The 120-year life limit is a concept with deep biblical roots, rich theological significance, and profound scientific and cultural implications. Whether viewed as a literal divine decree, a symbolic marker, or a biological limit, it prompts reflection on the nature of human life, mortality, and the potential for extending lifespan. Through exploring its origins, interpretations, and impacts, we gain a deeper understanding of the intricate interplay between theology, science, and human experience. This exploration highlights the enduring relevance of the 120-year life limit in shaping our views on aging, longevity, and the human condition. Number 6. King Abgar. A detailed exploration. King Abgar, also known as Abgar V of Edessa, is a historical and legendary figure who has captured the imagination of historians, theologians, and scholars for centuries. His story intersects with early Christian history and involves a fascinating blend of documented events and legendary accounts. This exploration delves into the historical context, the legendary correspondence with Jesus, theological implications, and the cultural and artistic impact of King Abgar. Edessa, modern-day Urfa in Turkey, was an ancient city located in the kingdom of Osroene, which lay between the Roman and Parthian empires. Edessa was a significant cultural and trading hub and is considered one of the earliest centers of Christianity outside the Roman Empire. Abgar V, also known as Abgar Ukama, meaning the Black, reigned as king of Edessa from 4 BC to 50 AD. His reign was marked by strategic political maneuvering as he balanced the influences and pressures from the neighboring Roman and Parthian empires. Known for his diplomatic acumen, Abgar V managed to maintain a degree of independence for his kingdom during a tumultuous period. One of the most enduring legends associated with King Abgar is his purported correspondence with Jesus Christ. According to tradition, Abgar, suffering from a severe illness, often described as leprosy, wrote a letter to Jesus, acknowledging him as the Son of God and seeking his help. The letter is said to have been delivered by a courier named Ananias. The legend holds that Jesus responded to Abgar's letter, promising to send one of his disciples after his ascension to heal the king and bring salvation to Edessa. This disciple is later identified as Thaddeus, one of the 72 disciples, also known as Addai, who visited Edessa, healed Abgar, and converted the king and many of his subjects to Christianity. While the historical accuracy of this correspondence is debated, the story appears in early Christian writings, including those of Eusebius of Caesarea, a 4th-century church historian. Eusebius claimed to have seen the letters in the archives of Edessa, which has lent some credence to the tradition, though many modern scholars view the letters as apocryphal. The legend of King Abgar and his correspondence with Jesus has significant theological implications for early Christian faith. It symbolizes the early spread of Christianity beyond Jewish and Roman boundaries, indicating the universal appeal and reach of the new faith. The conversion of a foreign king underscores the message of Christianity's accessibility to all people, regardless of their background or status. The narrative emphasizes themes of healing and salvation, central to Christian theology. Abgar's healing by Thaddeus, or Addai, serves as a testament to the miraculous power attributed to Jesus and his followers. It reinforces the belief in the transformative power of faith and the divine mandate to spread the gospel. The story also highlights the role of the apostles and early Christian missionaries in spreading the teachings of Jesus. Thaddeus's mission to Edessa, as promised by Jesus in his letter, underscores the authority and mission of the apostles to heal, preach, and establish Christian communities. The story of King Abgar has been a rich source of inspiration for Christian art and iconography. One of the most famous artistic representations is the image of Edessa, or the Mandylion, a cloth bearing the miraculous image of Jesus' face. According to tradition, this image was created when Jesus pressed a cloth to his face, and it was later sent to Abgar, contributing to his healing. This relic has been venerated in both Eastern Orthodox and Western Christian traditions. The legend of King Abgar has been incorporated into various Christian liturgical texts and hagiographies. The story is recounted in the Doctrine of Addai, an ancient Syriac text that narrates the apostolic activities of Thaddeus in Edessa. The legend also appears in medieval European literature, highlighting its widespread influence across different Christian cultures. Edessa became an important pilgrimage site due in part to its association with the Abgar legend. Pilgrims visited the city to venerate the image of Edessa and other relics connected to the early Christian community there. The significance of Edessa as a center of Christian faith is reflected in the construction of churches and the preservation of its Christian heritage. Modern historians and biblical scholars have scrutinized the legend of King Abgar, examining its origins, historical context, and authenticity. While some view the letters and associated traditions as legendary, others consider them to be rooted in historical events, albeit embellished over time. The lack of concrete archaeological evidence makes it difficult to draw definitive conclusions. Some contemporary scholars interpret the legend symbolically, viewing it as a reflection of the early Christian community's aspirations and experiences. The story of a foreign king converting to Christianity and being healed by an apostle can be seen as an allegory for the spread of Christianity and the transformative power of the gospel. The narrative of King Abgar also offers insights into interfaith dynamics in the ancient Near East. The interaction between the Jewish Christian tradition and the broader Mesopotamian cultural context highlights the exchanges and influences that shaped early Christian communities. The legend underscores the interconnectedness of different religious and cultural traditions in the region. King Abgar of Edessa remains a figure of great interest and significance in both historical and legendary contexts. His story, particularly the legendary correspondence with Jesus, has had a profound impact on Christian theology, art, and culture. Whether viewed as a historical figure or a symbolic representation of early Christian aspirations, King Abgar's legacy endures as a testament to the early spread of Christianity and the enduring power of faith and healing. Through a detailed exploration of his life and legend, we gain a deeper understanding of the rich tapestry of early Christian history and the ways in which these narratives continue to inspire and shape our world. Number 7. Neanderthals were not created in God's image. An in-depth exploration. The assertion that Neanderthals were not created in God's image delves into the intersection of theology, anthropology, and evolutionary biology. This topic raises profound questions about human origins, the nature of the divine image, and the relationship between modern humans and our ancient relatives. This exploration will cover the scientific understanding of Neanderthals, theological interpretations of the image of God, historical perspectives, and the implications for contemporary faith and science dialogue. Neanderthals, named after the Neander Valley in Germany where their fossils were first discovered in 1856, are an extinct species or subspecies of archaic humans who scientists believe lived approximately 400,000 to 40,000 years ago. They inhabited regions across Europe, the Middle East, and parts of Asia. Neanderthals were characterized by a robust build, with large noses, prominent brow ridges, and a relatively low forehead. They had strong limbs adapted to cold climates and physical endurance, which was crucial for their survival in harsh environments. Evidence suggests that Neanderthals had a complex culture and exhibited behaviors similar to modern humans. They made and used tools, controlled fire, built shelters, wore clothing, and possibly practiced symbolic behaviors such as burying their dead and creating art. Recent findings indicate that Neanderthals may have had some form of language and social structures. Genomic studies have revealed that Neanderthals interbred with anatomically modern humans, or Homo sapiens. As a result, non-African human populations today carry approximately 1 to 2% Neanderthal DNA, highlighting a shared ancestry. These genetic contributions have influenced various aspects of modern human biology, including immune response and skin characteristics. The concept of being created in the image of God, or imago Dei, originates from the Bible, specifically Genesis chapter 1 verses 26 through 27. Then God said, "Let us make mankind in our image, in our likeness, so that they may rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky, over the livestock and all the wild animals, and over all the creatures that move along the ground." So God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God he created them, male and female he created them. Traditionally, the imago Dei has been interpreted to mean that humans possess unique qualities that reflect God's nature. These qualities often include rationality, moral awareness, spiritual capacity, relationality, and the ability to exercise dominion over creation. This interpretation has typically been applied to Homo sapiens, the species identified as modern humans. The assertion that Neanderthals were not created in God's image stems from the view that they lack certain attributes traditionally associated with the Imago Dei. Some theologians argue that since Neanderthals are not direct ancestors of modern humans and exhibit differences in cognitive and cultural capacities, they do not fully reflect the divine image. Other theologians and scholars advocate for a more inclusive interpretation of the Imago Dei. They suggest that the divine image encompasses a broader range of hominins, including Neanderthals, given their evident intelligence, social structures, and cultural behaviors. This perspective emphasizes the continuity and shared heritage within the human lineage. Before the discovery of Neanderthals, the understanding of human origins was largely informed by religious texts and philosophical inquiries. The idea of a distinct creation of humans as described in Genesis was predominant in Western thought. The advent of evolutionary theory in the 19th century, particularly through Charles Darwin's work, revolutionized the understanding of human origins. The discovery of Neanderthals and other hominin fossils provided tangible evidence of a complex evolutionary history, challenging traditional views of a single, distinct creation event. Religious institutions have varied in their responses to the implications of evolutionary theory and the existence of Neanderthals. Some have rejected the idea that non-Homo sapiens hominins could be part of the divine plan, while others have sought to integrate scientific discoveries with theological insights, promoting a more harmonious view of science and faith. The discussion around Neanderthals and the Imago Dei highlights the ongoing effort to reconcile scientific findings with religious beliefs. Many contemporary theologians and scientists advocate for a dialogue that respects both the integrity of scientific evidence and the depth of theological traditions. The consideration of Neanderthals in the context of the Imago Dei also raises ethical questions about how humans relate to other species and to our ancient relatives. It prompts reflection on the dignity and value of all life forms and the moral responsibilities humans have toward the natural world. Embracing a broader understanding of humanity that includes Neanderthals can enrich the sense of shared history and common heritage. It encourages a view of human evolution that appreciates the diversity and complexity of the human family and fosters a deeper sense of connection with our past. Integrating the scientific study of Neanderthals with theological education can provide a more comprehensive understanding of human origins. This approach can help bridge the gap between science and religion, fostering a more informed and nuanced perspective among students and the public. The assertion that Neanderthals were not created in God's image touches on profound questions about human identity, the nature of the divine, and the relationship between science and religion. Through a detailed exploration of scientific evidence, theological interpretations, historical perspectives, and contemporary implications, we gain a deeper understanding of this complex and multifaceted topic. Whether viewed through the lens of exclusive or inclusive interpretations, the discussion highlights the importance of ongoing dialogue and integration between scientific discoveries and theological reflections. This exploration not only enriches our understanding of Neanderthals and their place in the human story, but also invites us to reflect on the broader themes of creation, identity, and the divine image in all of its manifestations. Number 8. The Book of Jubilees. An in-depth exploration. The Book of Jubilees, often referred to as Lesser Genesis, is an ancient Jewish religious work that expands upon the narratives found in the canonical book of Genesis. This text, which has significantly influenced Jewish and Christian traditions, offers a unique retelling of biblical stories with additional details and theological insights. This comprehensive exploration will delve into the origins, content, historical context, theological themes, and the impact of the Book of Jubilees. The Book of Jubilees is believed to have been composed between 160 and 150 BCE during the Second Temple period, a time of significant religious and political upheaval in Judea. It was written in Hebrew and is attributed to an unknown Jewish author or group of authors who aimed to reinterpret and expand upon the Pentateuch, particularly the Book of Genesis and the early chapters of Exodus. Fragments of the Book of Jubilees were discovered among the Dead Sea Scrolls at Qumran, confirming its ancient origins and importance within certain Jewish communities. These fragments, along with complete copies found in the Guizi language within the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, indicate the text's wide-ranging influence. The most significant manuscript discoveries include: Number 1. Qumran fragments. Found in Cave 1 and Cave 4 at Qumran, these Hebrew fragments are crucial for understanding the original text and its transmission. Number 2. Ge'ez manuscripts. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church preserves the Book of Jubilees in its biblical canon, providing complete versions in the ancient Guizi language. The Book of Jubilees covers the biblical history from creation to the arrival of the Israelites in Egypt. It is structured into 50 chapters, aligning with the 50 Jubilees, or periods of 49 years, that the text uses to frame history. The narrative is presented as a revelation to Moses on Mount Sinai, where he receives detailed instructions and explanations from an angel of the presence. The book begins with the creation account, emphasizing the Sabbath and the role of the angels. It provides detailed genealogies and timelines, often differing slightly from the canonical Genesis. The stories of Adam, Noah, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob are expanded with additional details. Notable additions include the binding of Isaac, the marriages of the patriarchs, and specific laws and commandments given to them. Jubilees stresses the importance of the covenant between God and Israel, often linking it to specific laws and practices. The text introduces additional festivals, such as the Feast of Weeks, or Pentecost, and emphasizes the importance of circumcision, dietary laws, and purity regulations. The book elaborates on the role of angels and demons in the biblical narrative. It includes detailed accounts of the fallen angels, the Nephilim, and the influence of evil spirits on humanity. One of the distinctive features of the Book of Jubilees is its unique chronological and calendrical system. It divides history into Jubilee periods and insists on a solar calendar of 364 days, rejecting the lunar calendar used by other Jewish groups. This system reflects the author's attempt to promote a specific understanding of sacred time and its alignment with divine order. The Book of Jubilees was composed during the Second Temple period, a time of great diversity and development within Judaism. It reflects the concerns and beliefs of a particular Jewish sect, likely associated with the Essenes or another pietistic group who valued strict adherence to the law and a distinct calendar. Early Christian writers, including those who shaped the New Testament canon, were aware of the Book of Jubilees. Its themes and expansions on Genesis influenced early Christian thought, particularly regarding angelology, demonology, and the interpretation of biblical history. While the Book of Jubilees was not included in the rabbinic Jewish canon, its influence persisted in various Jewish traditions. Some of its ideas, particularly those concerning the Sabbath and purity laws, found echoes in rabbinic literature, though often adapted or reinterpreted. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church uniquely includes the Book of Jubilees in its biblical canon. This inclusion highlights the text's lasting impact and its role in shaping the theology and liturgical practices of the Ethiopian Christian community. The Book of Jubilees places a strong emphasis on the covenant between God and Israel, presenting it as central to the divine plan for humanity. The text underscores the importance of obedience to God's commandments, linking the covenant to specific laws and rituals. Angelology and demonology are prominent in Jubilees. The text provides detailed accounts of the roles and activities of angels, both righteous and fallen. It elaborates on the actions of the Watchers, or fallen angels, and their offspring, the Nephilim, offering a theological explanation for the presence of evil and corruption in the world. The unique calendrical system of Jubilees reflects its concern with sacred time. By advocating a solar calendar and specific festival observances, the text seeks to align the community's worship with a divinely ordained order. This emphasis on sacred time underscores the belief in a structured and purposeful divine plan. The Book of Jubilees presents a detailed theological anthropology, emphasizing the creation of humanity in God's image and the special status of the Israelites as God's chosen people. It explores themes of human fallibility, redemption, and the role of divine guidance in human history. Modern scholarship has extensively studied the Book of Jubilees, particularly in the context of Second Temple literature. Scholars analyze its theological innovations, its relationship to other biblical texts, and its role in the development of Jewish and Christian thought. Comparative studies between Jubilees and other ancient texts, such as the Dead Sea Scrolls and apocryphal writings, have provided insights into the diversity of Jewish thought during the Second Temple period. These studies highlight the distinctive perspectives and contributions of Jubilees to the broader religious landscape. The themes and narratives of the Book of Jubilees have influenced later apocryphal and pseudepigraphal works. Texts such as 1st Enoch and the Testaments of the 12 Patriarchs show similarities in their expansions of biblical stories and their theological concerns, indicating a shared cultural and religious milieu. In contemporary religious and academic contexts, the Book of Jubilees continues to be a subject of interest for its unique perspective on biblical history and its theological insights. It offers valuable perspectives for understanding the development of Jewish and Christian traditions and the complex interplay between Scripture and interpretation. The Book of Jubilees stands as a remarkable and influential work within the corpus of ancient Jewish literature. Its unique retelling of biblical narratives, its detailed theological and legal expositions, and its distinctive calendrical system provide a window into the religious thought and practices of a particular Jewish community during the Second Temple period. Through its influence on early Christianity, its preservation within the Ethiopian Orthodox tradition, and its continued scholarly study, the Book of Jubilees remains a vital text for understanding the richness and diversity of early Jewish and Christian traditions. This exploration highlights the enduring significance of Jubilees and its contributions to the ongoing dialogue between faith, history, and theology. Number 9. The Forbidden True Name of God. An in-depth exploration. The concept of the forbidden true name of God is one of the most profound and enigmatic elements in the religious traditions of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. This notion is rooted in ancient beliefs about the power of names and the divine mystery of God's identity. This comprehensive exploration will delve into the origins, theological implications, historical development, mystical perspectives, and cultural representations of the forbidden true name of God. The most well-known and revered name of God in the Hebrew Bible is the Tetragrammaton, YHWH. This four-letter name is considered the most sacred and is often referred to as the ineffable name of God. It appears over 6,000 times in the Hebrew Bible and is usually translated as Lord in English versions of the Bible. The significance of the Tetragrammaton is highlighted in several key passages. Exodus chapter 3 verses 14 through 15. When Moses encounters God in the burning bush, he asks for God's name. God responds, "I am who I am," or Ehyeh Asher Ehyeh, and then reveals the name YHWH, stating, "This is my name forever, the name you shall call me from generation to generation." Exodus chapter 20 verse 7. The third commandment explicitly instructs, "You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain," underscoring the sacredness of God's name. In addition to YHWH, the Hebrew Bible uses several other names and titles for God, such as Elohim, meaning God, El Shaddai, meaning God Almighty, Adonai, meaning Lord, and Ehyeh, meaning I am. Each of these names reflects different aspects of God's nature and attributes, but none carry the same level of sanctity and mystery as YHWH. The pronunciation of YHWH has been lost over time due to the Jewish tradition of not vocalizing the name to prevent its misuse. Instead, Jews often use substitutes like Adonai, meaning Lord, or Hashem, meaning the name, when reading the scripture aloud. The Masoretic texts, which add vowel points to the Hebrew consonants, use the vowels of Adonai or Elohim to guide the reader to substitute these names instead of attempting to pronounce YHWH. The prohibition against pronouncing the true name of God reflects the deep reverence and sanctity attributed to it. In Jewish thought, the name of God embodies His essence and presence. Misusing or casually invoking the name is seen as a serious transgression, violating the sacred relationship between God and humanity. The true name of God symbolizes the tension between God's transcendence and immanence. While God is beyond human comprehension and existence, or transcendent, He is also intimately involved in the world and human affairs, or immanent. The name YHWH captures this duality, as it is derived from the Hebrew root for, to be, indicating God's eternal presence and involvement in creation. In Jewish mysticism, particularly Kabbalah, the true name of God holds profound mystical significance. Kabbalists believe that the name contains the key to understanding the divine nature and the secrets of the universe. Meditating on the name or its letters is thought to facilitate spiritual enlightenment and closeness to God. In ancient Israel, the name YHWH was used in worship and daily life, but its use became increasingly restricted over time. By the Second Temple period, the pronunciation of the name was reserved for the high priest, who would utter it only once a year on Yom Kippur in the Holy of Holies. Rabbinic Judaism further codified the restrictions on pronouncing the name. The Mishnah and Talmud discuss the prohibition and provide guidelines for substituting other names or titles for God. The reverence for the name also led to the development of alternative expressions like Hashem. In Christianity, the name YHWH is acknowledged but not commonly used. The New Testament focuses on the titles Lord, or Kyrios in Greek, and God, or Theos in Greek. Jesus is often referred to as the Lord, and the divine name is seen as fulfilled in His person. The sacredness of the name is respected, but the emphasis shifts to the revelation of God through Christ. Islam holds the name of God, Allah, in the highest reverence. While not directly connected to YHWH, the emphasis on the sanctity of God's name is similar. The 99 names of Allah in Islamic tradition reflect different attributes of God, but His essence remains ultimately unknowable and transcendent. Kabbalah, the mystical branch of Judaism, offers deep insights into the true name of God. The Tetragrammaton is viewed as a key to understanding the divine nature and the structure of the universe. Kabbalists explore the significance of each letter and its combinations, believing that they reveal hidden aspects of God's character and the spiritual realm. In Kabbalistic symbolism, the Tree of Life, which maps the 10 Sphirot, or divine attributes, is closely associated with the name YHWH. Each letter of the name corresponds to different aspects of the Sphirot, illustrating the connection between the divine name and the manifestation of God's presence in the world. Christian mystics, influenced by both Jewish traditions and their own theological developments, have also contemplated the significance of God's name. Figures like Meister Eckhart and John of the Cross wrote about the ineffability of God's true nature, emphasizing the mystery and transcendence captured in His name. In Sufism, the mystical branch of Islam, the divine names, or Asmaul Husna, are used in dhikr, or remembrance, practices. The repetition and meditation on these names aim to draw the practitioner closer to the divine presence. The true essence of Allah's name is considered beyond human comprehension, reflecting a similar mystical approach to the divine name found in Judaism and Christianity. The reverence for the true name of God has influenced Jewish, Christian, and Islamic art. In Jewish art, the name YHWH is often represented by symbolic abbreviations or letters to avoid direct depiction. In Christian art, representations of God often focus on Christ or symbolic imagery rather than the explicit use of the name. Islamic art, particularly in calligraphy, celebrates the names of Allah, emphasizing their beauty and sacredness. The forbidden true name of God has inspired numerous literary and musical works. In literature, the theme of the ineffable name appears in mystical writings, poetry, and theological discourse. Music, particularly in religious contexts, often incorporates the reverence for God's name through hymns, chants, and compositions that reflect the sanctity and mystery of the divine. The intrigue surrounding the forbidden name of God has permeated popular culture, appearing in novels, movies, and television shows. These representations often explore themes of power, mystery, and the consequences of invoking the divine name, reflecting the enduring fascination with this profound concept. The idea of a forbidden true name of God underscores the power of language and names in human thought and spirituality. It highlights the belief that names are not merely labels but hold intrinsic power and significance. This perspective invites reflection on the ethical use of language and the respect for what is considered sacred. The prohibition against pronouncing the true name of God also serves as a reminder of human limitations in comprehending the divine. It challenges individuals to approach the divine with humility and reverence, acknowledging the mystery that transcends human understanding. The shared reverence for the divine name in Judaism, Christianity, and Islam provides a common ground for interfaith dialogue. Exploring the different traditions and interpretations of God's name can foster mutual respect and a deeper appreciation for the diverse ways in which humanity seeks to understand and relate to the divine. The forbidden true name of God is a profound and multifaceted concept that resonates across religious traditions and cultures. From its scriptural origins in the Tetragrammaton to its mystical interpretations and cultural representations, the true name of God embodies the sacred, the mysterious, and the transcendent. Through a detailed exploration of its historical development, theological significance, mystical perspectives, and cultural impact, we gain a deeper appreciation for the enduring power and mystery of the divine name. This exploration not only enriches our understanding of religious traditions but also invites us to reflect on the broader themes of language, reverence, and the quest for the divine in human experience. Number 10. Melchizedek. An in-depth exploration. Melchizedek is one of the most intriguing and enigmatic figures in the Bible, whose brief appearances in the Old and New Testaments have inspired extensive theological debate, mystical interpretation, and scholarly research. This comprehensive exploration will delve into the biblical accounts, historical context, theological significance, mystical interpretations, and cultural impact of Melchizedek. Melchizedek first appears in Genesis chapter 14 verses 18 through 20, during the narrative of Abram, who is later called Abraham. Then Melchizedek king of Salem brought out bread and wine. He was priest of God Most High, and he blessed Abram, saying, Blessed be Abram by God Most High, creator of heaven and earth. And praise be to God Most High, who delivered your enemies into your hand. Then Abram gave him a tenth of everything. Melchizedek is mentioned again in Psalm chapter 110 verse 4, a messianic psalm attributed to David. The Lord has sworn and will not change his mind. You are a priest forever, in the order of Melchizedek. The New Testament book of Hebrews provides the most detailed theological exposition of Melchizedek, particularly in chapters 5 to 7. The author of Hebrews uses Melchizedek as a type of Christ, emphasizing his eternal priesthood. Hebrews chapter 5 verse 10, and was designated by God to be high priest in the order of Melchizedek. Hebrews chapter 7 verses 1 through 3. This Melchizedek was king of Salem and priest of God Most High. He met Abraham returning from the defeat of the kings and blessed him, and Abraham gave him a tenth of everything. First, the name Melchizedek means king of righteousness. Then also, king of Salem means king of peace. Without father or mother, without genealogy, without beginning of days or end of life, resembling the Son of God, he remains a priest forever. Melchizedek's dual role as both king and priest is significant. In the ancient Near East, kings often held religious as well as political authority. Salem, which is traditionally identified with Jerusalem, was a significant city, and its king would have held considerable influence. The concept of a priest-king was not unique to the Hebrew tradition. In Canaanite religion, as in many ancient cultures, rulers were often seen as intermediaries between the gods and the people. Melchizedek's title, Priest of God Most High, or El Elyon, suggests that he served a deity recognized as supreme, even by Abraham. The priesthood of Melchizedek is presented as superior to the Levitical priesthood established later under the law of Moses. In Hebrews, this superiority is argued on the basis that Abraham, the ancestor of Levi, paid tithes to Melchizedek and was blessed by him, indicating Melchizedek's greater status. In Christian theology, Melchizedek is seen as a type of Christ. The author of Hebrews emphasizes Melchizedek's eternal priesthood, lack of genealogy, and his roles as king of righteousness and peace as foreshadowing Jesus Christ. Christ's priesthood is thus depicted as eternal and transcendent, in the order of Melchizedek, rather than the temporal and hereditary Levitical order. The declaration in Psalm chapter 110 verse 4 and its application in Hebrews underscores the concept of an eternal priesthood. This priesthood is not based on lineage or succession, but is a divine appointment. For Christians, this eternal priesthood is fulfilled in Jesus, who intercedes eternally on behalf of humanity. In Kabbalah, Melchizedek is sometimes associated with mystical themes and divine wisdom. His character embodies a fusion of earthly and heavenly authority, reflecting the Kabbalistic aim of uniting the physical and spiritual realms. Some Gnostic texts and esoteric traditions have expanded on the figure of Melchizedek, seeing him as an ascended master or an archetype of spiritual enlightenment. These interpretations often emphasize his mysterious origins and eternal nature. Early Christian mystics, influenced by the typology in Hebrews, meditated on Melchizedek's role as a precursor to Christ. Figures like Origen and Ambrose wrote extensively on the mystical significance of Melchizedek, seeing him as a symbol of divine mystery and eternal priesthood. Melchizedek has been depicted in various forms of Christian art, often shown presenting bread and wine to Abraham, symbolizing the Eucharist. Medieval and Renaissance artists, such as Pietro Perugino and Lorenzo Monaco, created notable works featuring Melchizedek. The figure of Melchizedek has appeared in literature, from the writings of the Church Fathers to modern novels. In contemporary literature, Melchizedek sometimes symbolizes wisdom and ancient knowledge, appearing in works like Paulo Coelho's The Alchemist. Melchizedek's mysterious and revered status has inspired musical compositions, particularly in sacred music. Various hymns and liturgical pieces reflect on his role as a priest and king, often drawing connections to Christ. Early Jewish interpretations of Melchizedek varied. Some Jewish traditions identified him with Shem, the son of Noah, while others viewed him as a unique and mysterious figure whose priesthood prefigured the Levitical order. Rabbinic literature offers a range of views on Melchizedek. Some rabbis saw him as a righteous Gentile who recognized the true God, while others debated his relationship to the priesthood of Israel. The enigmatic nature of his character allowed for diverse interpretations within Jewish thought. In Christian theology, Melchizedek's significance grew with the development of Christology and the interpretation of Hebrews. Church fathers like Augustine, Jerome, and John Chrysostom wrote about Melchizedek, emphasizing his typological connection to Christ and his role in salvation history. During the Reformation, Melchizedek's priesthood was discussed in the context of debates over the nature of the priesthood and the sacraments. Modern biblical scholarship continues to explore Melchizedek's historical and theological significance, examining his role within the broader context of ancient Near Eastern religion and early Jewish and Christian thought. Melchizedek serves as a point of connection in interfaith dialogue between Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. His role as a priest-king and his reverence across these traditions provide a common ground for exploring shared religious themes and histories. The figure of Melchizedek continues to inspire theological reflection on the nature of priesthood, the relationship between the Old and New Testaments, and the concept of eternal intercession. His mysterious and elevated status invites ongoing exploration of divine mystery and human understanding. Melchizedek's titles, King of Righteousness and King of Peace, resonate with contemporary spiritual and ethical concerns. He embodies ideals that transcend specific religious traditions, offering a model of righteous leadership and peaceful coexistence. Melchizedek stands as a remarkable and multifaceted figure within biblical literature and religious tradition. His brief appearances in Genesis, Psalms, and Hebrews have generated extensive theological, mystical, and cultural exploration. From his historical context as a priest-king of Salem to his typological connection to Jesus Christ, Melchizedek's influence spans Judaism, Christianity, and beyond. Through detailed examination of his biblical accounts, historical interpretations, theological significance, and cultural impact, we gain a deeper appreciation for the enduring mystery and relevance of Melchizedek. His legacy invites ongoing reflection on divine mystery, eternal priesthood, and the quest for righteousness and peace in human life. Number 11. Bullinger's 5 Crosses. An in-depth exploration. E. W. Bullinger, a prominent 19th-century biblical scholar and theologian, is well known for his works on biblical numerology, dispensationalism, and the study of symbols in the Bible. One of his notable contributions is the concept of the 5 Crosses of Jesus Christ, which he delineates to provide a deeper understanding of the significance of the crucifixion in Christian theology. This exploration delves into Bullinger's 5 Crosses, examining each in detail, their biblical foundations, theological implications, and the broader impact on Christian thought and practice. Ethelbert William Bullinger, who lived from 1837 to 1913, was an Anglican clergyman, biblical scholar, and theologian known for his dispensationalist views and contributions to biblical numerology. He authored numerous books and articles that influenced the study of the Bible in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Some of Bullinger's key works include The Companion Bible, Numbers in Scripture, and The Witness of the Stars. His analytical approach to the Bible and emphasis on symbolic meanings and typology have left a lasting impact on biblical studies. Bullinger's concept of the 5 Crosses is a theological framework that identifies and distinguishes 5 different aspects or representations of the cross of Jesus Christ in the New Testament. This framework aims to highlight the multifaceted significance of the crucifixion and its implications for Christian doctrine and faith. The first cross, the cross of Christ, is the most familiar to Christians. The physical cross on which Jesus was crucified. This cross is central to the Christian faith and is described in detail in the Gospels, specifically Matthew chapter 27 verses 32 through 56, Mark chapter 15 verses 21 through 41, Luke chapter 23 verses 26 through 49, and John chapter 19 verses 17 through 37. The cross of Christ represents the ultimate sacrifice and atonement for sin. Jesus' suffering and death on the cross fulfill Old Testament prophecies and demonstrate God's love and justice. This cross is the symbol of redemption, where Jesus took upon himself the sins of humanity, offering salvation to all who believe. Key themes of the cross of Christ include: Number 1. Atonement. Jesus' death as a substitutionary atonement for the sins of humanity. Number 2. Sacrifice. The ultimate act of love and obedience to God's will. Number 3. Redemption. The deliverance of believers from sin and eternal death. The second cross is the cross of the believer, or the discipleship cross. Jesus spoke of the cross in the context of discipleship, calling his followers to take up their crosses and follow him. This is found in passages such as Matthew chapter 16 verse 24, Mark chapter 8 verse 34, and Luke chapter 9 verse 23. The cross of the believer emphasizes the call to discipleship and the willingness to endure suffering and self-denial for the sake of following Christ. It represents the daily commitment to live a life that reflects Jesus' teachings and example. Key themes of the cross of the believer include: Number 1. Discipleship. The call to follow Jesus and live according to his teachings. Number 2. Self-denial. The willingness to sacrifice personal desires for the sake of God's will. Number 3. Suffering for Christ. Enduring hardships and persecution as part of the Christian walk. The third cross is the cross of reconciliation, or the peace cross. Paul's writings, particularly in Ephesians chapter 2 verses 14 through 16 and Colossians chapter 1 verses 19 through 20, speak of the cross as a means of reconciliation between God and humanity, as well as among different groups of people. The cross of reconciliation highlights the unifying power of Jesus' death, breaking down barriers and creating peace between divided groups. Through the cross, God reconciles humanity to himself and establishes a new community of believers. Key themes of the cross of reconciliation include: Number 1. Reconciliation. Restoring the broken relationship between God and humanity. Number 2. Unity. Breaking down barriers and fostering peace among different groups. Number 3. Peace. The cross as the foundation for lasting peace and harmony. The fourth cross is the cross of suffering, or the persecution cross. The New Testament frequently addresses the theme of suffering for the sake of Christ, as seen in passages like 1 Peter chapter 4 verses 12 through 13 and Philippians chapter 1 verse 29. The cross of suffering underscores the reality of persecution and hardship that believers may face for their faith. It calls Christians to endure suffering with the hope and assurance of future glory. Key themes of the cross of suffering include: Number 1. Persecution. Facing opposition and hardship for one's faith in Jesus. Number 2. Endurance. Remaining steadfast in the face of suffering. Number 3. Hope. The assurance of future glory and reward for those who suffer for Christ. The fifth cross is the cross of glory, or the victorious cross. Paul often speaks of the cross in terms of victory and triumph over sin, death, and the powers of darkness, particularly in passages like Colossians chapter 2 verses 13 through 15 and 1 Corinthians chapter 1 verse 18. The cross of glory celebrates the victory and triumph of Jesus' death and resurrection. It signifies the defeat of sin and death and the inauguration of God's kingdom. Key themes of the cross of glory include: Number 1. Victory. Jesus' triumph over sin, death, and evil. Number 2. Resurrection. The power of the cross validated by the resurrection. Number 3. Kingdom of God. The establishment of God's rule through the victory of the cross. Bullinger's 5 crosses offer a comprehensive framework for understanding the multifaceted significance of the cross in Christian theology. By highlighting different aspects of the cross, this framework encourages deeper reflection on the implications of Jesus' death and its transformative power. For believers, the concept of the 5 crosses can serve as a guide for spiritual formation and discipleship. It emphasizes the importance of embracing the cross in all its dimensions: sacrifice, discipleship, reconciliation, suffering, and victory in one's personal faith journey. Bullinger's framework provides a rich resource for preaching and teaching. Pastors and educators can use the 5 crosses to convey the comprehensive nature of the gospel message and to encourage believers to live out the implications of the cross in their daily lives. The 5 crosses can also foster ecumenical dialogue by highlighting the shared centrality of the cross in different Christian traditions. By focusing on the various dimensions of the cross, Christians from diverse backgrounds can find common ground and deepen their mutual understanding and respect. Bullinger's 5 crosses offer a profound and multifaceted understanding of the cross of Jesus Christ, enriching Christian theology and practice. By exploring the cross from different angles, suffering, discipleship, reconciliation, persecution, and victory, believers can gain a deeper appreciation of the significance of Jesus' death and its transformative power. This framework not only enhances theological reflection but also guides spiritual formation, preaching, teaching, and ecumenical dialogue. Through the lens of the 5 crosses, Christians are invited to embrace the full spectrum of the cross's meaning and to live out its implications in every aspect of their lives. Number 12. Greek gods in the Bible. An in-depth exploration. The intersection of Greek mythology and biblical narratives is a fascinating subject that has intrigued scholars and theologians for centuries. While the Bible primarily focuses on the God of Israel and the religious practices of the ancient Israelites, there are several instances where Greek gods and their associated myths make an appearance, either directly or indirectly. This comprehensive exploration delves into the presence of Greek gods in the Bible, examining the historical context, specific biblical references, theological implications, and the broader cultural impact. The Hellenistic period, which began with the conquests of Alexander the Great in the 4th century BCE, brought Greek culture, language, and religion into widespread contact with the ancient Near East, including the regions of Israel and Judah. This cultural exchange led to significant Greek influence on Jewish life and thought, particularly in the regions under Hellenistic rule. By the time of the New Testament, the Roman Empire had subsumed much of the Hellenistic world, continuing the spread of Greek culture and religion. Roman religion itself was heavily influenced by Greek mythology, with many Roman gods directly corresponding to Greek deities, e.g., Jupiter to Zeus, Venus to Aphrodite. The Book of Daniel, written during the Hellenistic period, contains several references that can be interpreted in the context of Greek influence. Daniel chapter 8 describes a vision involving a ram and a goat, traditionally interpreted as representing the Persian and Greek empires, respectively. Daniel chapter 8 verse 21. The shaggy goat is the king of Greece, and the large horn between its eyes is the first king. While this passage does not explicitly mention Greek gods, it reflects the geopolitical landscape dominated by Greek influence. The Old Testament frequently warns against idolatry and the worship of foreign gods. While these admonitions primarily target Canaanite and other Near Eastern deities, the rise of Hellenistic culture likely broadened the scope of these warnings. Deuteronomy chapter 4 verse 19, for example, cautions against worshipping the sun, moon, and stars, which were also significant in Greek religion. Deuteronomy chapter 4 verse 19. And when you look up to the sky and see the sun, the moon, and the stars, all the heavenly array, do not be enticed into bowing down to them and worshipping things the Lord your God has apportioned to all the nations under heaven. One of the most direct encounters with Greek religion in the New Testament occurs in Acts chapter 17, where the Apostle Paul visits Athens, the heart of Greek culture and philosophy. Paul observes the city's numerous idols and engages with its philosophers. Acts chapter 17 verse 16. While Paul was waiting for them in Athens, he was greatly distressed to see that the city was full of idols. Acts chapter 17 verses 22 through 23. Paul then stood up in the meeting of the Areopagus and said, "People of Athens, I see that in every way you are very religious. For as I walked around and looked carefully at your objects of worship, I even found an altar with this inscription, 'To an unknown God.' So you are ignorant of the very thing you worship, and this is what I am going to proclaim to you." Paul's speech at the Areopagus, or Mars Hill, highlights his strategy of engaging with Greek religious thought to introduce the Christian God. He references the Athenians' altar to an unknown God as a starting point for discussing the God of Israel. In Acts chapter 14, Paul and Barnabas visit Lystra, where a miraculous healing leads the locals to mistake them for Greek gods. Acts chapter 14 verses 11 through 12. When the crowd saw what Paul had done, they shouted in the Lycaonian language, "The gods have come down to us in human form." Barnabas they called Zeus, and Paul they called Hermes because he was the chief speaker. This incident reflects the deep entrenchment of Greek mythology in the local culture and the challenges early Christians faced in distinguishing their message from polytheistic beliefs. The Book of Revelation, rich in symbolic and apocalyptic imagery, contains elements that resonate with Greco-Roman mythological themes. For instance, the imagery of the dragon in Revelation chapter 12 has parallels with the mythological serpent or dragon figures in Greek mythology, such as Python or Typhon. Revelation chapter 12 verse 3. Then another sign appeared in heaven, an enormous red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns on its heads. While Revelation draws primarily from Jewish apocalyptic traditions, the Greco-Roman context of its writing means that its imagery would have been familiar to contemporary audiences steeped in mythological traditions. The presence of Greek gods in the biblical narrative underscores the tension between monotheism and polytheism. The biblical authors often emphasize the exclusivity of the worship of YHWH in contrast to the polytheistic practices of surrounding cultures, including Greek religion. Paul's engagement with Greek philosophy in Athens, particularly his use of Greek poets and philosophers to articulate his message, such as in Acts chapter 17 verse 28, demonstrates an early Christian approach to cultural integration and contextualization. By referencing Greek philosophical concepts, Paul connects with his audience while steering them toward monotheistic worship. The New Testament's encounters with Greek gods and idols highlight the challenges of cultural assimilation for early Christians. The incidents in Lystra and Athens illustrate the need for clarity in distinguishing Christian beliefs from the prevalent polytheistic practices of the time. The interaction between early Christianity and Greek mythology significantly influenced early Christian apologetic. Church fathers like Justin Martyr, Clement of Alexandria, and Origen engaged with Greek philosophical and religious ideas, often using them as a foil to articulate and defend Christian doctrine. Christian art and iconography, particularly in the early centuries, sometimes incorporated Greco-Roman elements. This syncretism is evident in the adaptation of classical motifs and symbols to convey Christian themes, such as the use of the Good Shepherd motif, which echoes depictions of Greek shepherd gods like Hermes. The dialogue between Christianity and Greek mythology continued in medieval and Renaissance literature. Works such as Dante's Divine Comedy and Milton's Paradise Lost reflect the integration of classical mythology with Christian theology, creating a rich tapestry of narrative and symbolism. The presence and influence of Greek gods in the Bible illustrate the complex interplay between biblical monotheism and the polytheistic cultures of the ancient Mediterranean world. Through examining the historical context, specific biblical references, theological implications, and broader cultural impact, we gain a deeper understanding of how early Christianity navigated and engaged with the dominant cultural and religious paradigms of its time. This exploration highlights the enduring relevance of these interactions in shaping Christian thought, art, and literature, reflecting a dynamic process of cultural integration and theological reflection. And that concludes our deep dive into Tier 2 of the Christianity Iceberg. We've explored some fascinating concepts and uncovered layers of meaning that enrich our understanding of the faith. But our journey doesn't end here. In the next video, we'll be venturing into Tier 3, where we'll start to uncover the lesser-known aspects of Christianity that aren't widely known. These are the mysteries, the forgotten traditions, and the intriguing insights that will take us even deeper into the rich tapestry of Christian belief and history. Make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on this exciting exploration. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.